Good day, everyone, and welcome to Home at the Hollow, and welcome to my kitchen. Thank you so much for joining me. This recipe was just such an incredible pleasure to work on today because I got to embrace my childhood roots, relive a few memories, and please a new friend by presenting it to you. So, Laura, I hope that you enjoy this video. It was an incredible pleasure. And without further ado, a traditional New Orleans king cake. So the very first thing that you want to do when you start working on your king cake, and I hope that you guys give this a try, but is to scald 1 cup of whole milk. And I have had it on low. I'm turning it up a wee bit. Now, when I say scald, I don't mean bring it to a massive rolling boil and just let it bubble, bubble, bubble. What I do is I will watch it, and of course I'm going to stir it the entire time. And as it comes to a boil, when you start to see the bubbles around the edges here, and when it starts to boil, and the purpose, you do not have to scald this milk. I highly recommend you to do this in this recipe and any yeast recipe that calls for adding milk, not room temperature, but scalding. The purpose of scalding this milk is because milk has a whey protein in here that if you just add it to whatever batter it is that you're working with, it is going to kill the rising agents in your yeast. So that's the whole purpose of scalding milk, is to kill the whey protein in here that keeps your dough from rising. And we're just going to bring this up the best we can in just a moment. As you guys can see, I am foaming up. I'm definitely heating up. This is probably taking about 5 or 10 minutes to actually safely scald this milk. And I think we're pretty good. I remember, oh my goodness, my mom, I remember once or twice would scald milk, and oh my goodness, she, I don't know if she got busy or if she didn't know what to do. I don't know, but I remember seeing a pot of scalded milk with just a film over the top of it, and it didn't look attractive then, and I really don't think it's going to look very good now, but we are totally done here scalding this milk. As you can see, it just started to come to a boil. To that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. It doesn't have to be softened or anything because it is going to melt. And remove this from the heat. And of course, your butter's going to melt, but remove this from your heat and allow this to come to room temperature. So I'm starting on my filling before we get really crazy busy with the dough. I've got 1/2 cup brown sugar, packed brown sugar, light brown, dark brown, whatever you have, and 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. I'm going to pour right in here. Sometimes I've seen a lot of recipes, not necessarily for this king cake, but just in general, sweet rolls, things like that, that will use just brown sugar. My experience using just exclusively brown sugar for a filling like this is very often, and it's been my experience, very often it will bake down and form a sticky, and if you like sticky, that's great, but I'm not a big sticky fan. A big sticky bottom, sticky on the top, that, I don't know, just it really doesn't work for me. because I want my filling to stay in the roll itself. So 1/2 cup packed, 1/2 cup granulated. I have about 3/4 of a cup of chopped pecans. And again, go through your pecans, make sure there's nothing unhappy in there. If you want to do less pecans, if you don't want to do them at all, that's, totally fine too. Just give this a bit of a mix. If you want to, you can add raisins. When growing up in Mardi Gras, I never saw a single king cake with raisins in it. But if you want raisins, you do raisins. You add whatever it is that you want to. I've got a tablespoon of ground cinnamon. Just give this a little bit of a go. And I have a 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour that I'm going to add to that. Give it a good mix. Make it sure that it looks like you want it to look like. If you want to add a little bit more cinnamon, of course, I wouldn't go with less, certainly, because this is going to make a big bunch of rolls, so it's going to be good. And last but not least, I have a 1/2 cup of virtually melted butter. I'm going to add right to that. And just give it a good stir. And know this is going to be delicious. I will be serving this in the morning to go with breakfast, but certainly, if you want to serve it with a cup of coffee in the afternoon or tea or what have you, there are no rules. There are no rules with king cake. And there you go. Yum, yum, guys. So I have warmed in a microwave-safe measuring cup. I've got about 1/3 of a cup of warm water. When I say warm water, I mean definitely warm water, about 110 degrees, maybe a little bit more. I'm pulling in it really almost too warm, but I'm going to take a chance on this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my yeast, and that's just 1 envelope of whatever kind of yeast you have. And I have got a tablespoon of granulated sugar. I'm going to just mix this together, and I'm going to give this about 10 minutes to, start working. And at the end of 10 minutes, it should start to look creamy. There you go. And we will be back in just a few minutes. As you guys can see, I hope that you can see, my yeast has done very, very well, and I couldn't be happier. I've got my cooled milk mixture here, and what I'm going to do, if I can make a wee bit of room, this is, totally cooled off, room temperature. And those of you who, sorry for the noise, guys, those of you who have my cookbook know very good and well you don't necessarily need warm to rise yeast. It can be done in the refrigerator over several days, but this is going to go by pretty quick, so we needed a little bit of warm to it. But to that, let's see if I can, got my dough hook on. I'm going to try that today. This is the first time I've actually ever used my dough hook for dough, as unusual as that sounds. But I'm going to add my yeast right in here. Oh, look at it. Oh, it's great. to my milk mixture. I'm going to add my yeast and all the really great stuff that it has produced. I couldn't have asked for anything prettier. And I'm going to just start mixing that. I'm going to add the remainder of my sugar. I'm going to add nutmeg. If you don't like nutmeg, you certainly don't have to. You can certainly substitute cinnamon in here, but I'm adding about 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. It doesn't take a lot of nutmeg. I'm adding 1/2 teaspoon of salt. If you are using unsalted butter, I would add 1 teaspoon. But a little bit of salt, not a lot. 1 room temperature well-beaten egg. I don't want to put just an egg in this mixture. I want it beaten ahead of time, very, very well. And that looks pretty good. I've got here about 2½ cups of all-purpose flour. I'm going to incorporate in here. And certainly if you want to double this recipe, it doubles very, very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch this. As exciting as that sounds, I'm going to watch this and watch for it to pull together. Now at that point, if it looks like it's doing okay, and it's, you know, got enough flour, got enough everything in it, of course, you know, you can kind of adjust, maybe get, you know, that wee bit of egg that's still in there. I may just add that in there if I feel like I need to. And it's looking pretty good. But I'm going to scrape down the sides here because the flour is just staying right there. Let's see. I don't think I can get any more of this yeast in here. I'll try to get the very last wee bit of this egg in here. If I can get this stuff out of you guys' way. And let's just see what happens. I'm not sure if I can get it really any closer for you. And that's looking like it's going to be really, really a nice dough. And this is probably the first time I've ever used my dough just for making this particular batter. I've always mixed it and then turned it out by hand and kneaded it by hand for probably about 10 minutes or so. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just let this go and beat this for probably about 10 minutes. And if I need to add, like I said, this very last bit, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to watch it, and we will be back in about 10 minutes. So as it turns out, I did have to add a little bit more flour. It just simply was not pulling away from the sides of my bowl here. I probably added about another ½ cup, 3/4 cup of flour. And you guys, as you know, if you have worked with dough of any kind, you have to make adjustments, you know, here and there with your flour. But it looks like we're on track. We've got about 8 more minutes left to go on this knead. So we are at the end of 10 minutes. And this dough just looks beautiful. Let's see if I can work with this a little bit. Come on, come on. There we go. I think you guys can see. There we are. I'm gonna just flour my fingers just a wee bit to get this off of here. Set this aside. Now, I do have a small, very bit of flour on this board, but this is just to turn this out to give me a chance to look at it, feel it. I know that sounds kind of unusual, but let's see if we can set this aside. Sorry. I've already greased my glass bowl. I've got my plastic wrap standing by. And from now on, when I want to work with this dough and deal with this dough, I'm going to put oil on my hands instead of flour. I don't want to incorporate any more flour than necessary. But I like to get a dough out and just kind of, push it. And if you've worked with dough before, you know when it's the very, very best time. You can see some of the speckles of nutmeg running through it, but this feels pretty good. So I'm going to just plop her in here, show her who's boss. And I coated her with that oil. I have my oven on proof at 95 degrees. I'm going to try that. I don't have a lot of experience with this proofing aspect of my oven. It's very, very new, but 95 degrees. After an hour, I'm going to check it. If after an hour I still feel like it has not doubled, I will let it go another half an hour, and then another half an hour after that. This can proof up to 2 hours, depending. And it depends on your, how warm it is, the environment that you have this in. But that's what I'm going to do. It's looking good. Looks like it's got a lot of activity happening. So I'm happy about that. So I will see you guys in about an hour. So my dough is still proofing. I've got like another half an hour, and I thought with a little bit of downtime, I would get prepped ahead of time. So I have a 12-inch, like a layer cake pan. I have already used my magic pan release, and we'll do all around the edges. I will try to remember to drop a link to this below. It has been wonderful. So if you guys have any bunt pans or pans that have a lot of cracks and crevices, this is wonderful. But there we go, 12 inches. So guys, my dough has doubled. I'm gonna grab that in a minute. I've got my pan ready. I'm gonna set this aside. I've got my filling here. I've got just a wee bit of surface flour here in case I need it. I have my rolling pin and a pair of scissors. So let me grab this from proofing. Oh my goodness. Yes, indeed. She did double. What I've done here, in case you're wondering, I've marked off a roughly 10 by 16 rectangle. It's a rough, but oh, how pretty. And it's just ever so warm. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I'm going to put just a little bit of flour. I'm going to try to turn this out. and set this aside. Oh my, it's wonderful. It's still warm. It's got some beautiful stretch to it. I think you guys can see. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start rolling out. And let's see how easy this is going to, or hard, is going to be. I think this is going to be not so bad, guys. Well, look at how easy this rolls out. I think you guys can see. Sorry, I get kind of carried away a little bit. And I forget, maybe I'm going out of shot somewhere. So my apologies. But, oh, this looks very, very good. This is going to be delicious. Everyone's going to love it. You're going to love it. I hope you give it a try and don't let yeast, you know, kind of intimidate you. Yeah, it looks pretty darn good to me. So roughly 10 by 16. Now I may have made too much filling. We will see. I think, you know what I think I'm going to do first. And this is just one of those random spur of the moment kind of things. I'm going to grab some butter here. This definitely has butter in this filling, but I think I'm going to just dot a little bit around. Let's see, it's not going to want to spread, unfortunately. Let's see what I can do. Yeah, it's just not going to want to spread. I was hoping, I should have melted it, is what I should have done. That's okay. It's all fine. I catch wild hairs and decide to do something a little bit different, and there you go. But let's see how much of this we can get in there. It smells wonderful, and it hasn't even come close to. But yeah, the cinnamon in here, and I do smell a little bit of nutmeg, because remember the dough is still slightly warm too. You know what? I think I'm just going to go for it. I mean, you know, why not, right? I'm going to just seize the moment. All right, get this like this. Get every last little bit of it. And just give it a little bit of encouragement. Just a little gentle persuasion. I like to give it a little bit of a kind of a good tuck here. Oops. I'm so glad you guys decided to join me for this. I haven't made one of these in a long time. Very long time. I've got my pan here. And I forgot one thing. Hold on. So what I went to go grab were my ramekin dishes. I totally forgot those. So I'm going to just pick this up as best that I can. And my pan is too big. So I'm going to improvise, guys. Come on, slide, slide, slide. You know you love it. Slide. I'm going to get the smaller one now that I've looked at it. Whoops. I'm going to put this ramekin in the middle of my king cake. I'm going to pinch this together to the best of my ability. I think I've got it pretty good. This dough is, oh my goodness, guys, this is just a beautiful, beautiful dough. Oh, beautiful. I'm going to take my scissors, and they've had their own little, and about, you don't want to go too deep. I'm going to go about 1 inch apart. That's a healthy inch, but there we go. It looks, you know, looks, I think it's looking pretty good. I'm going to proof this back in a 95-degree oven for, I'm going to start looking at it at 30 minutes. If I'm not happy with the rise that I'm getting, I'll let it go maybe another 15 minutes, but usually by 45 minutes you will have got something that you want to put on bake. So second rise, and we'll be back in just a little while. While our king cake is still proofing, I've made up some drizzle icing. Basically, it's 1 cup of confectioner sugar to 1 tablespoon of water. I don't want to put like any cream cheese or anything like that, because traditionally king cakes are made to travel, and once they travel to where they were going, you kind of never knew what the conditions, it might be an outside thing, you know, you just never know. So you wanted to kind of err on the side of caution and not put anything that might not do well in the heat of the bayou. So traditionally 1 cup confectioner, 1 tablespoon of water, and of course the traditional colors. And we're getting ready to start gearing the oven up. We've got about 7 more minutes, and we're going to start to bake them off. I wanted to bring this out as a little bit of a peek before I send it into bake, and this is what it looks like. And there you go. It's going to be delicious, guys. Straight out of the oven, guys. It is. I'm going to give it about half an hour before I even think about putting any of the nice sprinkles and sanding sugar and things like that. But let's give it a good half hour to cool off, and I'll try to get my ramekin dish out from the middle of it. We are still cooling off a little bit, but I wanted to kind of get in here a little bit closer so you guys could see where it has, the filling has stayed in, and it looks really, really good. And it did not stick to the ramekin. I put some of my magic release on there, pan release on there, and it worked out really, really well. But overall, this is going to be very, very good. I hope that we are cooled off enough. I think you guys can see this came out so nicely. It's really super heavy. Although, you know what, I can look in here and I can see it's going to be delicious. But without further ado, I'm hoping that most of this will stay on here. I did add just a smidge, and by a smidge, I'm talking maybe a half a teaspoon of water just to loosen these up, because, you know, as it bakes and rises and bakes, and, you know, sitting like this, they're kind of like, please use me. But anyway, let's see. I'm really hoping that this will not. And that's looking pretty good, like it's going to stay. Awesome. A few sprinkles. A few more sprinkles. And I'll just go ahead and go for it. I'm going to try this color. This purple came out really dark. Very, very rich. Come on. And let's see. Excuse my reach, guys. And you just kind of keep doing that, making a mess. And a wee bit of green. Kind of hard to see the green on here. And let's see. This is going to be so good, guys. Yum. Yum. I'm so pleased with how this came out. A little bit of purple. I really like how the purple sprinkles kind of brighten it up a little bit. Yum. Afraid I got that all over me. Let's see. I really like how the gold and the yellow has come out on this. Very pretty. I've already got my cake stand ready. I don't even think I need this sugar. I don't know. Well, yeah, I'm going to add it anyway. Why not, right? It's just a little bit. Put some more on all of these. I'm going to just go over these. And if I have to add more sprinkles, then that's okay. I mean, it is Mardi Gras after all, right, guys? A little bit here. Yeah, overall, I'm just really very, very pleased. Some purple. Absolute decadence. Oh, it's beautiful. Okay, last of my green here. And I just did make enough. So that's basically 3 cups of confectioner sugar, of course separated and colored, and just water. I think that just about does it, guys. Now this is my version of a New Orleans style king cake. This at a party won't last any time. Well, wasn't that a lot of fun? I think we're a little crooked here, but anyway, my apologies about that. But here we go. Oh my goodness. What a pleasure this was to do for you guys. You know, it's not for everybody. It is certainly not a beginner recipe, but I've already cut into this, and I'm going to just bring this back out. Let's see. And give you guys a good look. And turn it around a little bit. This is a traditional New Orleans recipe. It's not going to get any more traditional than that. I did not place a baby and or bean in this dough mostly because I don't like unexpected surprises. And it's like I spoke with someone online recently, and I said, no, I did not put a baby in my dough here. I have not seen that done since a very, very long time. Sometimes you will find them, someone will lift up a piece of the cake and put the baby up under the cake and slide it back down and present it to you. But it's very rare now that we actually are putting babies in cakes. But you may see a baby sitting on top of the cake. And if your host or hostess cuts the piece and hands it to you, well, just say thank you and carry on whatever the tradition is, wherever it is you are. With me, it was more than likely the onus was on you to host the next party, make and take a king cake for next year to the party, to whoever is hosting it. And a bare minimum, you're going to have good luck throughout the year, no matter what. So a very win-win. This was just so much fun, and what a pleasure to make. I hope that some of you guys give these a try. But mostly I wanted to share with you about my culture and the fun that was had at that time. Thank you again for joining me. Laissez le bon temps rouler. Goodbye, guys.